Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Optimizing Your Immune Health webinar. My name is Janet Thompson. I'm an acupuncturist and herbalist here in Oakland, California. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Whoops, not that. Here we go. All right. So I don't typically do this, but today I wanted to talk a little bit about my background because I think it's important to explain my perspectives on immune health. So I have a background in Western medicine. I got an undergraduate degree in neuroscience and psychology, and I've been very involved in the Western medical field for a long time. However, I decided to move into alternative health and got a graduate degree in Chinese medicine a handful of years ago now. So I really come from both a Western and an Eastern perspective. It's really important to me to be able to communicate across both fields and use the best of what both fields have to offer. I know there are certain practitioners who really believe that alternative health is the best way to go. And I myself have benefited a lot from what Western medicine has to offer. And I think both approaches are really beneficial, especially when it does come to immune health. So I will be talking about both. And I just wanted to be clear that, especially because of my Western medical background, I do think using research-informed approaches whenever possible is the best way to go. So the information I'm going to be sharing today really focuses more on things that have been shown to be effective through research studies. So, welcome. So I want to start talking about both Western and Eastern approaches to immune health because they have related but different perspectives on what makes a healthy human being from an immune perspective. And I think that's important, especially as we're in a heightened state of awareness these days with the pandemic about really how to keep ourselves in good shape. Then I want to go into the bulk of the talk on self-care to optimize immune health. And I think it's really important, especially these days when we may or may not be required to shelter at home, to find ways that we can help ourselves, that we don't have to go to practitioners for external help. These are all things that we can do from the comfort of our own home in terms of modifications to diet, lifestyle, supplements as needed, and some additional methods to improve your immune health that are a little bit outside the box. And then we'll finish with some Q&A. So starting out, the Western medicine approach to immune health, and I think many people are familiar, immune health in Western medicine is measured through blood work. So as you know, you'll go to the office, they'll draw your blood, often doing a complete blood count, and they'll take a look at your white blood cells, and that will give a sense of whether your immune system is generally on target or whether it's under functioning or in some cases over functioning, which might mean that you have an infection. In certain cases, they will also look for specific antibodies. And so this is a very practical way of looking at the body's functioning. And so a lot of the studies that are done go back to this Western medicine approach of looking at the constituents in the blood to see what's working. So for example, when we see studies about what kinds of things to be eating, how to be exercising, how stress and sleep impact immunity, a lot of these studies are done by actually measuring what's going on in blood work before and after a particular intervention. So often I think we forget about some of the simple things. The Western medicine prescribed remedies include this list below that we will go through in a little more detail in the future, but I did want to hit these points first because I think they're really important. And the first is eating a diet high in fruits and vegetables. We know that eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables gives you the best chance at getting enough of the micronutrients you need to have the building blocks to create a functioning, well-functioning immune system. And we'll talk about exactly what those are later on. Regular exercise has also been shown to improve immune health. And so is maintaining a healthy weight, which of course is linked with a proper diet, good exercise, and the next item, which is getting adequate sleep. There are plenty of studies to show that when you are sleep deprived, you actually have increased hunger cravings and often increased sugar and caffeine cravings, which are likely to decrease the amount of healthy things like fruits and vegetables in your diet, right? So the first four are really intertwined. Again, from an immune health perspective, we certainly know this year, washing hands frequently is pretty key to try to decrease the amount of pathogens that are getting into our system. Avoiding smoking and limiting alcohol are both important for immune health, and then trying to minimize stress. So again, we'll get into the bulk of these later on. I just wanted to do a brief introduction. So this is what Western medicine says. If you want to optimize your immune health, here are the things that you need to be focused on. Chinese medicine takes a little bit of a different approach. Chinese medicine thinks that immune health is really based on your whole body's functioning. And if you have overall vitality and balance in your system, then your immune system is optimized, basically functioning at its best potential. And for those of you who may not be familiar, Chinese medicine uses a bunch of diagnostic techniques to determine how your body is functioning, how much vitality you have, and how well your system is balanced. Those include symptoms, so understanding what you're experiencing, whether you're having pain, discomfort, digestive problems, headaches, breathing problems, these sorts of things. Looking at your tongue, because the tongue actually changes in its color, its shape and size, and the coating, depending on what the internal body is doing. So that's a good metric to really help us understand how the body is functioning. And then lastly, the pulse. So in Chinese medicine, there are 18 different pulse positions on both wrists that give us detailed information about the functioning of the immune system, the digestive system, the cardiac system, the sort of root energy. All of these are indicated in the pulse. And so we can see, is the pulse even throughout? Is it really imbalanced? Is it adequately strong? Or are there imbalances? And that's one of the beautiful things about Chinese medicine, is it can pick up on some of these subtleties in a different way than Western medicine can. Now, of course, Western medicine picks up on all sorts of other subtleties using blood work that Chinese medicine has no access to. Certainly several thousand years ago, when the system was being developed, they were not running assays and doing internal body scans. So that's why I think marrying these two approaches really gives us the best of both worlds. So when we think about immune health and we think about something like this pandemic that's going on and how to make sure that we are as robust as possible, a lot of the people in the Western med community, and rightly so, are thinking about how is your respiratory health? Because a lot of the symptoms are respiratory focused. So are you smoking? Do you have a background of asthma or bronchial infections, pneumonia, these sorts of things, or a propensity to get sick in the lungs? Then you certainly want to be a little more careful about your exposure, maybe more than the rest of us. Chinese medicine takes a little bit of a different view and says, is your body out of whack? If your body's out of whack, then your immune system isn't functioning properly or at its optimal state. It's like driving a car when one of the wheels is flat. And the car will then have to put so much energy and effort into trying to keep the car going properly when one of the four wheels is really not functioning. And so that's when we think about, okay, do you have some chronic conditions that are going on? Are you, again, sort of prone to headaches? Does your digestion not function properly? Is your menstrual cycle really problematic in a number of ways? Is your mental health struggling in a lot of ways? All these things can pull resources from the body away from proper functioning of all the organs, all the cells, including the immune system. So that is the Chinese medicine approach. So the remedies from a Chinese medicine perspective are going to look similar to Western med, but not exactly the same. So Chinese medicine would say, you need to look at your diet from an individual perspective. And gracefully, Western medicine is catching up on this, right? I mean, there are always fad diets. There's always a new superfood that's shown to be that boosts your X, Y, or Z. But I think a lot of Western medicine practitioners are starting to come around to the fact that there's no one perfect diet, that each person's body operates so differently that diet really needs to be customized to the person. And that's how Chinese medicine works. So if you are the kind of person who's lethargic, your digestion doesn't work great, maybe you run cold, you're the kind of person who, yes, should eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, probably everybody should, but yours might need to be cooked. They might need to be cooked with warming spices like ginger and cardamom and cinnamon and black pepper and all those good things. However, if you're the kind of person, maybe you're a menopausal, perimenopausal woman, your body is running super hot. If you're adding black pepper to the system and you're adding ginger and you're adding warm spices, that might actually overload your system and create even more heat inside. So you'd be wanting to eat more, perhaps more watermelon, more mung beans, right? So these, again, you can eat all the good things, but which way you want to balance the diet really depends on what's going on internally. So Chinese medicine says, play around, just because you've heard that yogurt and berries and nuts are a great thing to eat for breakfast. Well, maybe you should be sensitive to whether you actually have a lactose issue and really tailor your diet to what you know works for you. So that's the Chinese medicine approach on diet. Exercise, again, I do love that the Western medical establishment and the public health establishment is saying, we need to get people moving because we have too many people in this country who don't move at all. And so our recommendation is 20 to 30 minutes of moderate exercise, 3 to 4 times a week is a good goal to shoot for. I think that's fantastic, but again, there are differences. So if we go back to the person who's lethargic, whose digestion isn't functioning, maybe they get sick a lot, maybe that's actually too much exercise for that person. Maybe they need 5 minutes of yoga and 5 minutes of walking every day to just get some movement in. If you're the kind of person who has just sort of brimming with energy, perhaps also brimming with stress, you may be the kind of person who needs to do really aggressive workouts almost every day of the week to feel balanced and to feel like you're functioning properly. There's been, in the same way that there are dietary fads, there are exercise fads. And one of the current ones that I'm seeing a lot is HIIT, or high intensity interval training, which is a really effective way of strengthening the body if you have the kind of body and the constitution to be able to adapt well to it and to have the energy to go through it, because they're quite demanding workouts. For some people who are already run down, they're maybe parenting and homeschooling and stressed out the wazoo and not able to sleep well, that kind of workout may be way too much for their system, and they're actually sort of grinding their whole system down even further by doing this exercise that's supposed to be kind of the best thing that's out there. So again, Chinese medicine is looking at, okay, are you really looking at what the appropriate form of exercise is for you? Now, of course, with Chinese medicine, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that the Chinese medical system recommends acupuncture and herbs as needed to balance out any imbalances that you have. Most of us have some constitutional imbalance. For me, it's always a digestive and a fatigue imbalance. For other people, it might be, again, headaches or breathing problems or, maybe liver detoxification problems. There are all sorts of things, as we know, that can go wrong. So we all have a propensity to something. It's actually very rare that I come across someone in the clinic whose pulse is very evenly balanced, whose tongue looks perfectly beautiful. I wish it were true more often, but it's not. Adequate sleep, again, the recommendation is usually 7 to 8 hours per night. The only modification from a Chinese med perspective is, again, if you're the kind of person who has been historically run down, is recovering from an illness, you may need more sleep than that, and that is okay. I think a lot of people sort of shame themselves for needing 9 or 10 hours of sleep at times, and that's perfectly okay if that's what your body needs. The last thing I wanted to cover, which is really different from a Western medicine approach, is the concept of minimizing excess emotions. So in Western medicine now, thankfully, we talk a lot about stress and stress management. And we know that stress has myriad impacts in the body, on the cardiovascular system, the digestive system, and other symptoms. But in Chinese medicine, we talk about any excess emotions actually throwing the body out of balance. So you can think about a time, maybe the first time you fell in love, when you maybe weren't sleeping and you weren't eating and your body was so focused on this one thing and this wonderful feeling, and it's great. And yet your body is also getting a little bit out of whack because of this emotion. So again, whether it's stress or it could be grief, or it could be an abundance of joy, any excess emotion that is carried on for a long period of time is seen as something that can throw the body out of whack. And again, just to tie this back, if your body's thrown out of whack and the systems aren't functioning properly or at the hours that they're supposed to be functioning, then you don't have the same amount of energy to feed development of immune cells and to really have a robust immune system. So that's another piece to be thinking about. So as we're marrying in the rest of this presentation, the Chinese and the Western approaches to immune health, you'll see all these themes come together. So we've talked about diet generally. The more detailed recommendations that I wanted to share are that the Western Med has looked in detail at diet, and it determined that adequate intake of zinc, selenium, iron, copper, folic acid, and a host of vitamins, including A, B6, C, and E, are all important for optimal immune health. I am a big proponent of getting nutrition through food rather than through supplements. Studies seem to indicate that our body can absorb better when it's actually through whole foods than supplements. I'll get to supplements later, but generally you want to absorb through food. And what that means is you want to be eating, again, a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. I was listening to some research recently on nutrition and the gut microbiome. And we know that the microbiome of the gut is very important for all sorts of things, from immunity to digestive function to mental health. It really plays a powerful role in the body. And this researcher has determined that in order to have an optimally functioning gut microbiome, we want to be consuming 30 different species of fruits and vegetables every week. That sounds like a ton. Presumably, historically, people didn't have access to 30 different fruits and vegetables in a week, who were living in a specific region. Now that everything's globalized, we're certainly able to do so, but it takes a lot of work. I mean, if I think and add up, I have quite a healthy diet, but if I add things up, you get into a rut eating certain foods and seasonal foods, and it's really hard to get beyond sort of 15, 18 per week. So 30 is a stretch, but what we're hearing is that's a recommendation for optimal gut microbiome. And that kind of eating will also give you the best chance at getting enough of these micronutrients. I should add that if you're able to do organic fruits and vegetables are more likely to be grown in a scenario where the soil is not depleted. So another one of the problems that we're running into is that farms have been over farming and over tapping the soil. And so that the fruits and vegetables we're getting are actually not as full of the micronutrients as they were maybe 100 years ago, when we had really good soil care and we farmed less intensively. So this is another piece where, to the extent that you can grow locally, if you are able to grow some things in your backyard and really put a lot of nutrition into the soil with compost and other additives as needed, that's a great way to make sure that you're getting all of this rich vitamin and micronutrient content. One of my favorite tricks that I learned about not so long ago is using kitchen herbs for their antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties. So we use antimicrobial to mean sort of any of these microbes, whether it's bacteria or viruses or fungi. So this is a list, and it's not an exhaustive list, but it's a list of some of the most common kitchen herbs that have antimicrobial properties. Some are both antibacterial and antiviral. Some are just one or the other. But they're really common. Most of us have these in our house from time to time, maybe more often dried than fresh. I think the fresh are more likely to give you a little more oomph in terms of the antimicrobial properties. So what you can do, and what I'd recommend you do, is buy 1 or 2 or 3 of your favorite kitchen herbs each week. They're usually not too expensive. And every day, take a little bit of them, cut them up, either separately or all together in a bowl. Put them in a bowl on the kitchen table for every meal. Maybe breakfast, depending on whether you're having a sweet or a savory breakfast. Maybe the herbs aren't great on your oatmeal, but if you're having eggs or something else that's more savory, you can certainly sprinkle these on top. And this is an opportunity to A, make your food look more appealing and taste more appealing, and B, you get a whole bunch of antimicrobial additives to your food. And it's just an easy way to incorporate basically enhanced immunity into your eating on a daily basis. If you are a family with kids, it's also a fun way to get kids involved in the kitchen. You don't usually need a super sharp knife to cut these herbs, and so you can get kids involved in that part of the kitchen task. So lifestyle, we have covered this a little bit. I want to especially focus on the stress reduction piece at the bottom, and I will say that it's a little bit of a hard time these days to talk to people about sleep, movement, and stress reduction for those people who are really tapped out. This pandemic obviously has sort of stratified society in different ways than before. And some people have more leisure time and more ability to change things. And some people are just so maxed out right now that making zero lifestyle changes is basically their reality right now. But I do want to share the information and acknowledge that sometimes these things can be hard to achieve. So on sleep, again, 7 to 8 hours or as needed. There are some people who can get away with a little bit less, but generally we need 7 to 8 hours a night. If you are having trouble sleeping, things that help include both stress reduction and movement. Often getting tired out before bed can help, and reducing stress so you're not waking up as much with the with the demons that we all have, right, from time to time, can be helpful. And then, of course, there's a whole nother approach on sleep, looking at, you can use Chinese medicine. You know, I know a ton of people who are a fan of CBD. I don't profess to know enough about it to prescribe. Certainly there are other approaches that can help. And I would say if sleep is a problem for you, getting sleep under control, if you haven't tried to do so yet, is really crucial because it's foundational for your health overall. And we know for sure that proper sleep is tied to the immune system. If you lose a night or two, no problem. If you've got a new baby in the house, life is tough anyway, so there's not too much you can do there, but again, just do your best. On movement, really, humans were designed to move, we know that. So whether you're getting in incidental walking, walking the dog, animals are a huge, wonderful reason to get out and move. Whether you're whether you're focusing on your child's health, taking your child out, to get some movement helps you get some movement too. I would say that, a combination of aerobic work where you're walking, running, biking, some sort of movement, it depending on how your body is, it can be more aggressive or less aggressive. Yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, all these kind of part stretching, part meditative movements are fantastic for supporting your overall vitality. I'm a big fan. And we do know that weight-bearing exercise, I didn't put it on this slide, but we know that weight-bearing exercise is helpful for bone strength and balance as well. So especially if you're sort of 40 plus, that's something you should be doing. And that's a good reminder to myself. And again, higher intensity activities, if you are the kind of body and person that feels like they can handle it and you actually feel better after the workout and better the next day, then that's probably a sign that you can handle it. If you feel good after the workout, but then the next day you're exhausted, that's a sign that kind of movement is too much for you. Stress reduction. So I want to think about stress reduction holistically. So there's the more Western med and the more conventional thought around stress, which is usually, I have too many activities to do, I have too many things to think about, I have too much work to do. Maybe it's the family stress of I have a new kid, or I have an ailing parent or an ailing sibling, that kind of thing. We think about stress in that way. I want to think a little bit broader, again, back to the Chinese medicine approach of balancing emotions. So I think there are stressors on the body, and one could be extreme grief, repeated trauma or sort of flashbacks for people who have PTSD, any kind of, propensity towards anger all the time, these kinds of things that are creating havoc and imbalance in the body are important to work on. And this doesn't happen overnight, but I did want to talk through this list a little bit. So again, during the pandemic, I don't want to preach adjusting life demands for people who have no bandwidth to do so. So just understand that. But if you do, taking a hard look at, is my lifestyle at work working for me? Is my lifestyle at home working for me? Are there modifications I can make? Are there family members who can help share the burdens that I'm taking on? Are there things that are really just not that important and we should let that room in the house stay dirty? There are ways around sort of figuring out what your top priorities are. And then balancing life in another manner. So adjusting life demands is one piece. Having a calming home environment. Again, if you have a lot of rugrats running around and making a mess, this is maybe not so easy. But if you do have control in at least your bedroom or one corner of the house where you can create an area that's serene, research is really showing that our nervous system needs sort of blank spaces, calm spaces, in order to rebalance. We have so much stimulation these days in terms of all the electronic widgets and the sort of fast pace of life as compared to, say, 100 years ago, that our body needs that quiet space. Our brain needs that quiet space to return to proper functioning. So certainly getting out for walks or being outside in nature is very beneficial. But if you're in your home a lot, which we may be, especially this year, creating an area where the wall is a calm, serene color, there's not too much clutter in an area. It's just a place that you can sit and look and be able to sort of relax and feel at peace. That's really important. Again, if it can't be your whole home, I understand that, but there are sort of simple and cheap ways that you can reorganize so that at least one area is an area where you can focus on recharging. Meditation is key. I know we hear that all the time, and it really is. Research shows that meditation is foundational for pretty much every aspect of health. It helps with certainly mental health. It helps with fertility. It helps with anger management. It helps with digestive concerns. I mean, it is really almost a panacea, and it's just telling us we need to create space for ourselves to go inward, to breathe properly, to breathe steadily, and that has huge impacts on our health. So meditation is key. I will admit that once I heard that enough of basically the leading CEOs of very innovative companies were all meditating, I thought, all right, well, if my best shot at succeeding and really excelling comes from meditation, I'll give it a try. And it's been fantastic. And there are plenty of easy ways to do it. There are apps that give you guided meditations. There's plenty on YouTube. There are online courses for meditation. If you feel like you're a little bit lost, I would say don't put the pressure on, just try it. Just try it. And it doesn't have to be a ton of time. It's not like you have to sit on a certain pillow for an hour. You can squirrel away any area for 5 or 10 minutes and effectively meditate and reap the benefits. Spirituality and religion I put on here because they are important for stress reduction. If you have a particular path that you follow, I would say make time for that, because we know that participation in that kind of community and having faith is really foundational for a sense of trust and calm. And lastly, personal growth. So this is getting back to what I was talking about before in terms of imbalanced emotions, maybe past traumas, maybe current difficulties. If we are not willing to look at and address the things that are constantly creating us angst, creating angst within us, whether it's a past thing or a current situation, our body is going to keep repeating its patterns. And again, this is potentially sucking away energy that could go towards having a robust and healthy immune system, so that you're the kind of person who walks or, sleeps well at night, wakes up feeling great, has energy evenly throughout the day, and doesn't get sick. That's ultimately where we want to be. So in terms of personal growth, I mean, it doesn't happen overnight, but I would encourage anyone who's watching this to think about, are there areas of my life that I've sort of tamped down because I don't want to deal with it, even though I know that, at 3 a.m. those thoughts come up, or I can tell that there are situations in my life where I am basically stimulated by these old past patterns or difficult emotions that are creating more problems in my life. And I would encourage you to either find an appropriate therapist or a group of friends or a confidant that you can work through, or use self-help books to really try to progress through some of these old issues that are, again, creating imbalance in the body. So that's the bit on stress reduction. It's really an overall emotional balancing approach. All right, moving on to supplements. Again, I really think the bulk of our time is spent with eating and how we live our daily life. Right, we eat, most of us, at least 3 times a day, and our daily sleeping and our daily stress levels and our daily habits are what have the most profound impact on our body and our health. So that needs to be the primary focus. However, some of us are in situations where we don't have the ability to prepare healthful meals all the time. We're on the go too much, and supplements can be helpful. So one of the first thing I think about is a simple multivitamin. I do recommend organic food-based multivitamins. They are less likely to have fillers, and they're more likely to have effective levels of supplements that you might need. So multivitamins are one way to go. There are other supplements on the market, and I have not done a ton of research on this, again, because I really try to focus on food first. But there are supplements such as Athletic Greens that use, again, food-based supplements, which include a ton of micronutrients. So I know Athletic Greens, as an example, also has some prebiotics. It has micronutrients. I think it may even have digestive enzymes in there as well. So again, if you're not feeling like you're able to get enough nutritional content in your diet, Athletic Greens is a way to go. I did want to talk about astragalus root, which is the root that's pictured on this slide. Astragalus root is one of the basically the primary immune-focused herb in the Chinese medicine pharmacopoeia, and it has been shown to be an immunostimulant. So research has shown that it increases production of immune cells. And so frequently when we get around wintertime, certainly I, as an acupuncturist and herbalist, will be prescribing herbs and formulas that include some astragalus root in them. Again, we're focused on balance. So one person might need digestive support, one person might need stress relief. There are different things that you'd combine in a formula, but you can add some astragalus root in. Astragalus root comes in a number of different ways, so you just don't have to, again, go to an herbalist to get it. If you feel like you need additional immune support, you can buy astragalus root extract, which I think typically comes in pills. I'm not sure if it also comes in a tincture. You can buy the root. So the ones in the picture are organic astragalus root that you can cook into soups and stews. Which is great because then the whole family gets a boost of immune health with the meal. So what you would do is take 2, 3, 4 sections of the root, throw it in with a soup, cook the soup, and then strain them out before eating. Usually in a pot of soup or a pot of stew or dal or whatever you're making. It's not enough to adjust the flavor, but it's enough to give the properties of the root into the food. And then I think I sort of already covered a customized Chinese herbal formula. If you're having a number of imbalances and also want some immune support, that's another way to go. All right, additions. This is some of the fun stuff. I have a passion for the natural world, and I am a big fan of essential oils just because I like things that smell good, frankly. There has been a bunch of research on how essential oils support health. We've sort of known it for a while, and I think essential oils get a bad rap because sometimes they can be maybe overly relied on or overly marketed for all sorts of things. So again, I want to focus on those that have been addressed through research. And research shows that if you inhale, they had participants in the study inhale these essential oils, they would see, again, in blood work, an increase in immune cell production. So hinoki cedar oil is one. The one I have is from Japan. I think hinoki cedar grows in Japan and also some other areas of Southeast Asia, but you can certainly buy it online. Eucalyptus oil and also ginger oil. So these are 3 that you can use in a handful of ways. I don't recommend, again, the studies were about inhaling, so I'm not recommending any topical or internal use of the essential oil, but using a diffuser, you can get, I think $20 or $25, you can get a simple diffuser online and throw some drops of a high quality oil in there and have it permeate through your house. And that will give you the passive benefit while you're just in your house of getting some immune system support. There was a study on combining essential oils with aromatherapy. And this study showed, it was with pregnant women, but I have to imagine it works the same with non-pregnant women, that aromatherapy with lavender essential oil included into the massage oil or the massage cream that was being used saw a significant enhancement in immune system health overall. So if you can do self-massage, or you have a partner who's able and willing to add a few drops of lavender oil to a massage cream and give you a bit of a massage, again, we don't know if it's just the lavender oil or just the massage, but I would assume that getting both, right? So you're getting increased blood and lymph flow through the massage and stress reduction, as well as the healing properties of the lavender combined to improve immune health. So that's a wonderful thing if you have the time and space to make that work. And then the last piece is forest bathing. So this is a concept that especially also, again, comes from Southeast Asia. There's been a ton of research in Japan and South Korea, which are societies that are, for the most part, highly urban and highly stressed. And so there's been a lot of, I think, government focused research on stress reduction, which led to again, a whole bunch of research reports on benefits of nature immersion, one being called forest bathing. And the concept of forest bathing is that you're going out in nature for a period of time. Maybe it's, I think the minimum in the study was 2 hours. So that's, a good bit of time either sitting or walking, or as much as multiple days, which have correspondingly increased benefits to the immune system. So the key with forest bathing is not being stressed out, going into nature and being in your own head the whole time and just going for a fast walk and being done. That isn't what really does the trick. What does the trick is engaging all your senses in the experience of being in the outdoors. So you are focusing on smelling. We know that certainly the coniferous trees like the hinoki cedar put out compounds called terpenes, which are what makes some of that lovely smell, which brings some of those immune benefits. So you're making sure to be inhaling while you're walking, looking around. Our brain actually relaxes when we look around and see the fractal patterns in nature. And then you're listening for bird song, crunching leaves, all these kinds of things, right? So you're engaging all of your senses as you're walking through. There are wide-ranging benefits. So immune enhancement is just one of the benefits of forest bathing. We know that there are cardiovascular benefits, including decreases in blood pressure. We know that there are stress reduction benefits, and there are a whole host of others. So forest bathing, again, if you're not diffusing the essential oil, make sure to be getting out into nature as another piece of the puzzle in terms of immune health. So that is the end of what I have to offer. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Do you have any questions in particular? If not, I will, I'll close the recording for the day. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining. Feel free to contact me at the contact information below, email or phone if you have any follow-up questions. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, Janet.
Bye.